Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers preview, folks. It's a Steelers preview. No, we're not nuts. We know the Steelers aren't playing this Sunday in the Super Bowl, although they should be because they probably could beat both these teams. But I digress. We'll talk about that later. This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and joining me is the dynamic duo of Bryan Anthony Davis and Dave Schofield. Bryan, you're on the move. What's going on? The background is different.
Yeah, I am in a Marriott right now in Richmond, Virginia. So this is my dedication to you. And like I told you guys, I did two things I normally don't do to make sure I could get on this this podcast. And one is I skipped the chocolate fountain and fruit. I also went up 3 flights of stairs for you. So I just thought
there
I'd let
you
know.
go. And don't let him fool you, folks. It's not business related. His wife's probably mad at him. That's why he's at the Marriott.
That first part is definitely right. I mean, the doghouse has my name on it.
And it's called Marriott. All right, Dave, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing okay, but Jeff, I got to do something that you're not going to like.
Oh boy,
I've got to issue a correction. You guys caught me in a rookie mistake last week, and I've got to make the correction.
What is it?
It was the 1943 Detroit Lions that had negative 53 rushing yards in a game.
Oh, so it wasn't Bullet Bill Dudley.
No, because I looked in my notes and I was trying to find it. I was going from memory. I looked in my notes. I had 1947 circled, and I went with it, and I couldn't find any of the other stuff. And here 1947 was from another Steelers stat that I have that I didn't even get to. So I went back and double-checked, and I want to make sure we are 100% correct. So that's the first thing. It was the 1943 Detroit Lions, negative 53 yards on 33 attempts, and they won 7-0. The other thing, this is for you, Bryan. I looked up the stats between Plaxico Burress and Emmanuel Sanders since they left the Steelers, and the playoffs are a little bit different story, but pretty much hands down, Emmanuel Sanders has the better stats. He has 3 1,000-yard seasons versus Burress had 2. Sanders made 2 Pro Bowls. Burress never made the Pro Bowl in his career. The only thing that Burress had up on Sanders is touchdowns. He had a lot more touchdowns, but he was nowhere close in yards or receptions. And then now in the playoffs, Emmanuel Sanders has never had a touchdown in the playoffs, either for the Steelers or the Broncos. But for the Broncos, in every game that he had at least 5 catches and was up there pretty good in yards, where Burress was either feast or famine. He has three postseason touchdowns for the Giants he had, but he only had 2 games where he had 5 catches or more.
So wait a second. You're telling me, and this is stunning to me if this is true, that Plaxico Burress never made a Pro Bowl?
Never made a Pro Bowl.
Wow.
That's surprising.
To, now I can't even remember.
Football Reference?
Yes. According to them, he has no asterisk next to his name, which is for Pro Bowl.
He's been a prison shower. I know that.
And I actually do have a third thing. I mean, you guys guilted me into watching the Pro Bowl because you made me feel like you needed to, and then you guys didn't even watch all the Pro Bowl.
That's not true. That's not true. I watched the second quarter.
That you did not watch it all because I listened and watch your guys' other podcasts, so I know these things.
Jeff, let's apologize to him. We'll make it up. We have a snipe hunt coming up this weekend. We'll meet you in the
woods. Yes, that sounds about what I would get from you guys.
Well, let me just say I did watch 1 quarter of the Pro Bowl, and I was doing a bunch of stuff in the house, so stopped. I saw Juju Smith-Schuster leave limping off the field and said, I'm not watching any more of this crap. Take all the Steelers off the field, and I don't want to see him touch the playing surface again. And I turned it off at halftime for multiple reasons. It was just awful. But what's your third...
Real quick, if you go back into the archives and listen to The Hangover from Monday, Tony and we exclusively talked about the Pro Bowl, even though I didn't watch it. But we talked about it like we knew what we were talking about.
Well, I know that Tony
You guys
didn't watch
tried
it.
to talk about it. Tony didn't watch it. You didn't watch it.
It was pretty good. It was a pretty good talk, though.
It
We were
actually
right on. Football database.
There
Yay.
you go. All right, so Dave, what is your third thing, or is that it?
Was the third thing was the Pro Bowl.
Okay, the Pro Bowl. Well, I'm sorry for wasting your time. Let's get started with some news. There isn't a lot of news for once, thank goodness. I'm kind of sick of leading off with this huge monster news like Antonio Brown tweeted something. This is actually concrete news, and the news is, and it's kind of strange because typically the way the news leaks out from the Steelers organization is that one paper, one writer will get it, and then the rest of them run with it. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but this only came from Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and the news was that in 2019, Keith Butler, along with being the defensive coordinator, is also going to be taking over the role of outside linebackers coach. Now, if that means they're not filling Joey Porter's vacancy with any outside name like Kevin Green, who all the fans wanted, that also means that he's going to be returning back to his roots, so to speak, as he was the linebacker coach under Dick LeBeau for all those years. Guys, I have a couple questions for you to answer. First and foremost is, do you think this is actually manageable for a defensive coordinator to also coach an entire position group? I know that everyone says, well, Randy Fichtner coaches the quarterbacks. How much coaching of the quarterbacks do you think is being done that isn't already being done as the offensive coordinator? But I'll let you answer that yourselves. And then secondly is what does this mean for the defense? Does this mean that they're going to almost have like two coordinators with Terrell Austin and Butler with the front seven in the secondary? Brian, I'll go with you first. What are your thoughts on this move that the Steelers made?
First and foremost, I thought Randy Fichtner was the quarterback coach and Ben Roethlisberger was the offensive coordinator. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. You're right. My apologies.
But also, we have another coach coaching an entire group, and that's Mike Tomlin. It kind of makes me wonder, guys, has Keith Butler been demoted and they're just not putting it on paper? That kind of screams it to me. Here's the bottom line. His contract runs out at the end of this year. They don't have to fire him. They could do the same thing they did with Todd Haley, but also say, hey, you can fight for your job. You could fight for the outside linebacker coaching job. He did wonders there too, but he also had all the talent in the world. Maybe if he just focuses on that. What is Terrell Austin actually doing? Did you say the front seven? Is that correct?
No, secondary. He'll be primarily the secondary.
Okay. So with that being said, where's Tom Bradley at this point?
He's still on staff. I mean, he's still the secondary
What they said they're doing is they want to split up the safeties and the corners between the two of them. I don't know who's going to get which one, but
to me, this is actually an audition, a very cheap audition for Terrell Austin to be the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator. It could be. It could be that. It could be let's a quiet demotion and maybe have Mike Tomlin do more of the coordinating. But we haven't really loved what he's been doing as a coordinator. Because we know in that Jacksonville game, he took the reins. Either that or he took the blame out of Keith Butler's hands. So I think something's rotten here, but they're also trying to save face to say that we're not wrong. It's a cost-cutting move. There's going to be change. In my Fact or Fiction, you've seen Keith Butler will not be there next year. I would say fact for that. And, this is just a transition year. There's going to be a new person with the title of defensive coordinator in 2020, and you can mark that down right now.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
We've hit on a lot of it. I think there was something going on with the end of the year meeting with Butler to say, this is your role going to be for this year. It's going to be diminished. I don't know exactly what their plan is. I don't know if it's because of the new coach they brought in. I don't know if it's because of Tomlin. Remember, when he coached the linebackers, he had both the inside and outside linebackers. It wasn't until he became the coordinator that they hired a coach for each. So it'll just be one part of that. There's one other possibility that could be going on here. And that is, do they not want to hire someone else and say it's just going to be him, in case something happens where they could get the right person? And that is, there's still a lot up in the air, where there's a lot of speculation about if Kevin Green was still going to be employed by the Jets, where if something happened where he was able to get out of that, then they could still take him because they didn't hire somebody else. There's something going on there. It's really hard to say for sure what it is. So get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. The only thing I don't understand is that if he's doing, why keep him around? It's like I believe, Bryan, that what you said, that there's something rotten here. And Dave, if the end of the year conversation didn't go well between Tomlin and Butler, if you're not happy with him, just fire him. Are you worried that much about public perception that you're not going to fire someone that you don't think is doing their job and doing it well enough? I think that's a cowardly move. I'm not sure what they're doing. A lot of the moves, and mainly on the defensive side of the ball, have really had me scratching my head. You can throw in James Saxon being fired, and I'm really scratching my head. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Maybe they have a master plan. I said this last year when everyone was talking about, when they drafted Terrell Edmonds and how is that going to help this team? They need an inside linebacker. And I said, well, maybe he's going to be kind of like that inside linebacker in sub packages. I believe that was the plan going into the season. Morgan Burnett couldn't stay healthy, and then they had to change their plan. So we'll see. The Steelers they typically are playing chess, not checkers. And so I'm going to trust that they are making the correct moves. And let's be honest, if they are stripping some duties away from Butler, are we really going to complain, Bryan, about that?
No, we're not. We're not going to whatsoever. Like I said, I think he's gone. They're just not doing it now. They're not giving us what we want. They're saying that they're fine with everything. It's just like, I'm not trying to open Pandora's box here, but it's just like Roger Goodell saying that, hey, look, we're happy with the officiating. In fact, I don't think they could have done a better job in 2018. And we're like, what? Everybody's what? But at that point, what they say goes, and like, hey, this is our stance, drop it. And so basically that's what they're telling us, that this is the plan. We're not making any more changes. Drop it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dave, you agree. They take some stuff off of Butler's plate. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Oh, no, not at all. That's more going in the direction. I think they had to tell him that's what they were going to do. And it's basically, hey, if you don't want to do this, we're not going to fire you. We're basically just going to demote you. We're going to keep the title. We're going to keep the salary. But what you're doing is not going to be what it was before. So, and he probably had that choice. No, I don't want to do it. Let's just part ways. Or, okay, I'll stick around and we'll see what we can do. That had to be in that conversation, if is what I'm guessing, that he knew this. He basically had the option to say, let's just call it an end to it, or basically take the demotion. Not, like I said, not in title, but just in what he does.
Real quick, he can't really lose on this. This is actually a great situation if you're Keith Butler. He will be able to stay employed. He could stay employed years beyond this as a linebackers coach. It's just like when a head coach gets fired, goes to another team as a coordinator, and stays there 10, 15 years and excels at that job. We saw it with Mike Munchak. We've seen it in the past with guys like Norv Turner. One of those guys, Wade Phillips, was not that great of a head coach, but he's an amazing defensive coordinator, and he's working in the Super Bowl this weekend. So really, it's a chance for a guy to stay employed and keep his meal ticket going.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so we'll see how this pans out. I don't think we're going to really know anything until training camp rolls around, when they're seeing practices and how they're, different coaches are doing what's Austin doing compared to Bradley, what's Austin doing compared to Butler, how active is Butler with players like Dupree, assuming he's back, and TJ Watt and all of that. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this pans out, but time will tell whether it's A, successful, and B, what it's even going to look like. So let's go ahead and let's move to the Stat Geek portion. We waited too late last episode, and Dave was just trying to throw stuff in there, and Bryan and I just want to have fun at the end of the episode, and he's trying to be all serious. So let's get the serious stuff out of the way now. Go ahead with your Stat Geek stuff.
This isn't serious. This is fun.
No,
Go
talking
ahead.
about sports movies is fun at the end, and you wouldn't let us.
It's really fun too. That's fun too.
But guys, I have some stats. But guys, I have some stats.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had them before the show, and I kept waiting for you to say, "Hey, where's your stats?"
Malibu Dave.
So here we go. It is. Here we go. This is stat trivia. Okay, we're gonna start easy. Okay.
All right.
Since we're doing receivers tonight, who was the only Steeler in the Hall of Fame who has a 1,000-yard receiving season?
The only Steeler in a Hall of Fame that has a 1,000-yard receiving season
or seasons.
I'm going to go John Stallworth.
That's where I was going. Johnny
That
Stallworth.
is correct. Do you know how many of them he had?
I'm going to go with 2.
I'm going to go 3.
And Bryan would be the winner. It was in 79, 81, and 83.
84. Not 84?
84 was someone else who had 1,000 yards. That was Louis Lips.
Okay, he had an amazing 84.
Yeah.
He had an amazing 84. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was hurt all of 83. I'm going to call you on this.
Oh boy.
It was.
I want my money back. Now he's going to do his fact.
It's 84. He's right. You know what? I had to relook it up there because I don't know what wrong. It's very good. And it was Louis was in 1985. I knew they were back-to-back years. So it was 84 to 85. Yes, you were correct. That was 83 when he was injured, and that was the deal. Okay, we're gonna move on.
Dave's gonna punch me.
No. I'm glad. I don't know why. I wrote this down over a week ago, and I don't know why that says 83. I think I just did every 2 years. But yeah, there was
Dave. Hold on a second. Before you get to your next one.
Yeah.
Are you sure you have the correct answers?
Yes, I got this.
Because you've already admitted to 2 mistakes in one show.
Yep.
Wasn't John Stallworth 1943?
Yeah, that was 43. All right, here we go. Juju and AB are the second Steeler duo to each have 1,200 yards in a season. Who was the first?
I'm going to go with Plexico and Hines Ward in 2002.
Man, this guy knows his numbers. Okay.
I was gonna say 04, but then I thought 02 would be the better bet.
Yeah, 02 was when they had it. They both had 1,000 yards in 2001. They were the first duo for the Steelers, did 1,000 yards in 2001. Then they did in 2002, and they actually both had 1,300 yards. Oh. And if AB wouldn't have did what he did in week 13, because he ended up, or week 17, he ended up with 1,297 yards. If he would have had 3 yards the last week, they would have also both had 1,300 yards.
Who was the quarterback for those guys?
2002?
2002, that was Tommy Gunn, right?
That was
the first year of the Tommy Gunn era.
Tommy Gunn?
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Here's one. Bryan, if you get this one, I'll be impressed. This is an NFL question. Who was the first receiver duo with 100+ receptions each?
I got it.
Not Steelers, but in the NFL.
I'm going to go 1995.
Yes.
I'm going to go Detroit Lions.
That is correct.
Moore.
Yep.
I'm going to guess Johnny Morton.
No.
Herman Moore. Johnny Morton was in that group, but I don't know.
Brett Perriman.
I would have never pulled out Brett.
Yep.
Is that Brashad's dad? He's in the family.
If so, I don't know. Sure.
Either an uncle or something. I don't know.
Come on, but Jeff. You're going to be the family tree guy since Bryan knows all the numbers. That was pretty impressive. That was the first one in 1995. And then hold on, let me count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this year we had the 6th and 7th time that receiver duos each had 100 yards receiving. This is the first time ever in the NFL that there was two in the same season. We know one of them is AB and Juju. Who was the other one?
Wait, did you say 100 receptions or 1,000 yards?
Oh, 100 receptions.
Rams?
No, I'm thinking Vikings.
Thielen and Diggs?
It is Thielen and Diggs.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's you,
Very
Jeff.
good.
I didn't do that.
Thielen and Diggs. They actually tied AB and Juju duo wise for the number of receptions, 215 each. Now they were also the only other duo that was targeted over 300 times. AB and Juju was the most at 334, and they were next at 302. So that was pretty good. Now, as long as we're looking at duos, let's do this one. There's a different duo that is tied with AB and Juju for the number of touchdowns this season at 22. It is also the same duo that had more yards than AB and Juju, and it's not Diggs and Thielen.
You mean this season in the NFL?
This season. The only other duo that had more yards than AB and Juju, and they also, like I said, they were tied for touchdowns.
I've got two on my mind. I'll let you go first, Jeff.
You're not counting running backs here, are you?
No.
Okay.
I'm not including running backs, but I'm not saying that it's only receivers. There's your hint.
So there's your tight ends.
Oh, so okay, I've got it.
Go ahead, Bryan.
Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
There you go. Ding, 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 ding.
I was gonna go with Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins, but I didn't believe that. When you said tight end, I took Kelce.
Yeah, well, Sammy Watkins missed a lot of time.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Steelers stuff. Okay. Out of all the wide receivers on the Steelers, we're going to talk about this. Who had the least number of receptions, and how many was it?
Darius Hayward-Bay.
That is correct. How many receptions?
I wanted two. No, one.
Two, maybe.
One reception.
9 yards.
That was
two
in
targets.
what game was that? That was a little swing route. I don't know. If I thought about it hard enough, I could tell you the game.
New Orleans, maybe.
Yeah.
He caught a ball. Did he?
No,
I don't know.
Okay, is that it, or do you get more?
This is kind of a follow-up to that one.
Okay.
So on one catch on two targets, that means he had a 50% catch rate.
Yep.
There were two Steeler wide receivers who had a lower catch rate.
Antonio Brown's definitely one of them. And
Antonio Brown actually had a 61% catch rate.
Okay, there was a point he was like 48.
Yes, he got better as the season went on. It was pretty bad early on.
Two receivers that had worse.
Yes,
50%. And do you have a minimum targets for this?
DHP had two targets.
Well, I mean, Eli Rogers.
Eli
Rogers was the highest.
James Washington.
James Washington was lower. He had 42%, 42.1.
Got to be Justin Hunter.
And Justin Hunter had 23.1%. 23.1%.
We'll talk about this later, but he played his way out of town.
Yeah.
You mean Ben threw his shoulder?
Yep. Ben murdered him.
Yes.
All right.
He's got a dartboard of Ben Roethlisberger in his condo.
That's
so I'm going to stop with that. I figured that was more than enough for you guys.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good trivia. I like this segment. I like it earlier in the show, but I like this segment.
I do too.
So, Bryan, did you want to comment on anything before we move on?
No, I enjoy that, but
Okay,
I'm ready to talk about slinging the pig and catching it. Receivers. I want to talk about receivers.
That is what we're talking about. We are going to dive into the depth chart of the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver core. And the way that I described this article on YouTube for those that are watching live is there was a time when the Pittsburgh Steelers not only were considered a wide receiver factory, but were so loaded at the position. Can we really say that now? Let's just take a look at it, because Antonio Brown is number one, but we have no idea if he'll be back. Everyone's trying to leave the door open, and yet everyone else is trying to slam it shut, as every talking head is talking at the Super Bowl and everyone that says they know Antonio Brown well is speaking for him. And so it's just a mess, and you can't listen to everything that you hear, whether it's a current player, a former player, a friend of Antonio, whatever. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that Antonio Brown is not going to be on the Steelers in 2019. So what does your depth chart look like? Well, we know Juju Smith-Schuster will be back in his third year. We know that James Washington will be back in his second year. We know that Ryan Switzer will be back, even though he had surgery on an ankle this offseason, I believe. Justin Hunter is going to be a free agent. Darius Hayward-Bay is going to be a free agent. Eli Rogers will be a free agent. Am I missing anyone on the depth chart, guys? Is there a Fred something that
Fred Webb?
Fred Webb. Am I forgetting
Frank
a Fred
Webb.
Webb? Frank Webb. Yeah. Am I forgetting a Frank Webb that's on the practice squad that they signed to an off-season contract?
There's at least one I know that they've had, but I didn't look up who they were. I figured that was Bryan all the way.
I did not, because of my my haste this evening, I did not have a chance to check that out. But I could do that very quickly.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, is there anyone I'm missing that's off the top of our head?
But it wasn't like
who were the phenoms? There were phenoms in camp.
Justin Hunter was one of them. Always is.
Damon Patterson.
Yeah.
He's with another team.
But I thought Griffey was on the practice squad.
Griffey remained on the practice squad.
Yeah. Griffey.
I just don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Damon Patterson got picked up he got signed off the practice squad by another team. I want to say the Giants, but I'm not 100% sure.
So here's something interesting, if I could jump in. Here's a name who he's an NFL veteran. I mean, this is not the sexiest name right now. It would have been in the past, but who went on a CBS affiliate radio station during Super Bowl week and said he would love to play for the Steelers. And it's a wide receiver who's a free agent.
And that is
Terrell Pryor.
Ugh.
You know what? That's a cheap sign. That's your Justin Hunter. That's your tall guy. It's a Pittsburgh guy that comes in cheap. You at least give him a hat in camp.
At this point, he'd probably play for anybody.
Yeah.
Did he play at all? Did he play at all last year?
Jets. He was with the Jets.
But did he actually perform? I mean, was he just on the roster?
No, he was hurt a lot. He didn't perform, from what I understand. I will go ahead and pull that up. But you know what?
Sounds like a great signing.
It's a camp body, though. It's someone that could come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and 2 years ago.
If you can get vet minimum and you sign him like a 1-year deal, like a show me contract, then that's different. But I'm not paying this guy a dime over that if you're even thinking about bringing him in.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100%, but it's just interesting. He played in 8 games for 2 teams last year. Actually played 10 for Buffalo.
I was going to say, I thought he was with the Bills.
1 for the Jets, and I can't even see.
We are waiting with anticipation.
Bated breath.
I don't. Oh, that's because that's quarterback numbers. That's why. I'm not sure. I don't think he had the greatest season, and I wasn't expecting him to. Yes, he started 1 game, 30 targets, 16 receptions, so he's over 50%, and 252 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Hey, it's better than what Justin Hunter was.
Look, it's better than
paid him bigger money
and DHB together.
Yeah, you know. So I mean, show me what you got.
I'm not saying I'd be against it, but like I said, it all would have to be about the price. I'm not paying that dude $1 million to do anything.
It's a minimum. It would be a minimum deal at this point. It's a guy that's if he's asking for teams, saying where he wants to go and asking for teams, that means he's, I don't want to say begging for a job, but he'll come at the price, and he's coming back home. Because this is a guy in the past that said when he was young, no way do I want to play in Pittsburgh. I don't want to deal with distractions. Yeah. Now he would want to come to Pittsburgh, and he was basically talking about AB being there and Juju being there and Ben, and he wants to be a complementary piece to the puzzle. And that's not a bad fourth or fifth guy if he can stay healthy and you can bring him in.
Okay, so this kind of brings it. It's a good segue. I think that we would all agree that if Antonio Brown leaves, the need at wide receiver skyrockets up the team list. Now, Dave, where would you have it compared to like defensively, talking about inside linebacker, cornerback, and things of that nature?
Without AB, then those are your top three, and you have to address at least one in free agency and two in your first 2 round picks. And a lot of people, when they want to start looking at these mock drafts, they're like, oh, well, they're going to take the best available, or they're going to have to take the best defensive player or whatever. Just it doesn't really do any good to look at the draft yet until you see what happens in free agency. If you can get someone out there that might be available, I mean, even if it's a guy that's just a good, solid number two, a receiver, then you don't have to worry about addressing that in the draft. If you have to address it in the draft, you're going to be looking at another James Washington, because Juju rookie seasons do not come along very often. That's the exception, not the rule. So I think it's something that they should address more in free agency than they should via the draft, because you need it now.
I know that this was a name that a lot of people were, because you think about it, if Antonio Brown leaves, then you're missing that player that really draws a lot of attention to a defense. And so they were talking, I think this might have been Dale Lawley of DK Pittsburgh Sports was also talking on Steelers Nation Radio. I was listening a couple weeks ago, and he brought up the name Conley from the Kansas City Chiefs, who, with Sammy Watkins being there now, he's kind of an expendable, so to speak, but he is fast. Hasn't really had the best chance, but if you have speed and you can take the top off the defense, that's when a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster can still thrive. So that's just a name and maybe the type of player that they could possibly be targeting. Not a top-end talent by any stretch of the imagination, but could be a functional player. And I've said it before. I think I was on the standard as a standard this week. When the Steelers won Super Bowls, they didn't have star-studded receivers. I mean, you were talking Hines Ward, you're talking Santonio Holmes, Antoine Randall L. They're great players, but they're not the best of the best. And then I know that's what Antonio Brown is, but it doesn't mean that it's a necessity. Bryan, where do you stand in terms of if Antonio Brown leaves, they gotta get a free agent, they gotta get a top draft pick? Like, what are your thoughts on that? You're still on mute there, Bryan. You gotta take your mute off.
First and foremost, your top draft pick, he just continues to be defensive need. However, you're probably getting another number one, and you could probably go ahead and take that second number one and take a high-end wide receiver. You still have to go ahead and do it in free agency as well. The top free agent right now, I don't think it's the sexiest pick. I don't think this is a sexy class, but Golden Tate's your number one guy. But you mentioned some guys there, and I'm looking down the line, and I'm thinking of a guy like Dontrell Inman. Could be from the Colts. He was a solid number two.
Who the hell is that?
Come on, you're a FanDuel guy. You never played him?
Yeah.
No.
But here's a guy I really like. He's 27 years old. Tyrell Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers. 27. He's a couple years removed from a 1,000-yard campaign. He's 6'4". He could probably flourish with Juju taking the number one role. That's a guy that I would possibly look at. The other guys are your Randall Cobbs, Josh Gordon's on the list. You're not looking that way. You're not looking Jamison Crowder and Cole Beasley, I don't think. So John Brown, he's 29. I mean, they want to look at a guy like that. But other than that, I mean, Fitzgerald's gone. Fitzgerald went back with the Cardinals. And then Robbie Anderson, he's a restricted free agency with the Jets. He's 26. He's talented, but he's a head case. He's an absolute head case.
That class sucks.
Yeah, it's not. I mean,
that's awful. That is awful.
So, I mean, you might be seeing a guy. I mean, what if a guy comes in via trade? I doubt it. But you take a guy like a Moncrief or a like an Adam Humphries or someone like that, or Dontrell Inman, which check him out. He's not as bad as you think. Or Williams. You look at a guy as a number 2 and you draft high. You draft no lower than number 2, the second pick.
Let's not assume Antonio Brown's going to get a 1. I don't think they're going to get a 1.
If they don't, Jeff, if they don't get a 1, he stays put. He stays put.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough. I was listening to Pro Football Talk Live on TV today, and they were talking about how the reported return has not been what the Steelers expected.
Well,
they were expecting someone to say, "Look, we'll give you a first-round pick," and no one's doing it, and so they're not sure.
Amari Cooper got a first-round pick.
I'm fully aware of what these guys are drawing, but Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper, he doesn't have freaking baggage. He doesn't have all the crap. Bryan, go ahead. I know you want to talk.
Here's what we're forgetting about this whole thing. If you're Antonio Brown and you've got the ego that you have, and you find out that you're worth more than a number 2 pick, I mean, like nothing better than a number 2 pick, you don't want to go anywhere. You're patching things up. You're making that phone call. I actually think that window's opening up again, and he's ready to walk right through that window and say, "Guys, I'm back." Somebody said on the radio the other day that Antonio Brown leads the league in apologies every single week in the locker room for something. He will apologize for something that he ran a wrong route in a game, and he'll do that. And they don't know if they're genuine, but he's the one that'll do it. So he has no problem seeing that, I'm only worth a 2. He's not going to go for a 2 because it's
not up to him.
Yeah, but the Steelers don't want to trade him. I really don't think they want to trade him. They want him to come crawling back is what they want him to do.
They don't want to trade him with the status quo. They don't want him to stay with the status quo. They don't want him to come back and act like a buffoon that he has been. And that's on Tomlin too. Forget that. But I think that ultimately you say, it can't be the same old if he comes back. He's got to right the ship.
Dave, let me ask you this. We talked about this before, you and I. It's a line in the sand at this point. So they go ahead and say, look, you're worth a number 2. We think you're worth more than that. We don't want to trade you. However, we will. And do you want to be known as the guy that only went for a number 2? Or do you want to come back here where you have a chance at a ring and quit the bullshit? Oh, excuse me. I'm quoting Juju. I'm just quoting Juju. He said it first this week, and which I love that Juju said that. But quit the BS. Could we do that? You've got a chance of history here, dude. That's all they have to say to him. And that's all he has to do is pick up the phone. That's going to happen soon.
I like that. I don't see it playing out any other way other than that. It's got to be something like that. I like the notion of his ego knowing that, this is all we traded you away for. Or he could be vindictive and saying, you want to trade me away for only that? I'm going to show you. You never know. You never know with him.
And to quote The Rock, I guarantee you that in the next 3-4 weeks, Mike Tomlin is on a plane to Miami, Florida, and they're meeting at a Cracker Barrel or something, and having blueberry pancakes and talking about what needs to happen.
So you went with Cracker Barrel on that one?
Yeah, I was going to go with TGI Fridays, but
so okay, I think we can all agree that the 2019 wide receiver depth chart is hinging solely on number 84.
Yeah,
if he comes back, they can still target a receiver in the draft or in free agency. And it can still be a very big strength for this football team because we know that Juju can thrive with Antonio Brown opposite him. I also think that if Antonio Brown does not come back for whatever reason, whether he's sitting out, whether he's traded, it becomes in my opinion, it is a dire need. You cannot think, that James Washington is going to step in and just go off because I haven't seen it.
1,000% I agree with you.
Okay.
But here's one more thing. Can I mention? If they
Sure.
do bring him back and things aren't going the way the way it's planned, but he's still productive, guess what? On November 12th or whenever that trading deadline is, or October 31st or whenever that is, guess what? They're dealing him for a number 1 pick then.
Yeah, I think that's the Amari Cooper route. The one thing to keep in mind here, though, if it's going to happen before the season, it's going to happen right before the new league year starts, because that's when, or right after, I should say, in early March. That's when I think Antonio Brown's due like a $2.5 million signing bonus. They're not going to want to give him that money if they're not going to keep him on the team.
There's a 5-day window. 5-day window.
And I agree with that. But what I'm saying is if chicanery continues and they realize, all right, we'll eat that 2.5. We made a mistake on that. But if he's worth a 2 now, on October 31st, he's worth a 1 possibly to a team that's ready to make that move.
Yeah. Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit. We could talk about this for a while. Bryan, while you're sitting there, let's get the spread for Super Bowl 53 up so that we know what the current spread is. Dave, we know who we're all rooting for. No one wants to see the New England Patriots win again for multiple reasons. We're sick of Tom Brady. We're sick of the Patriots in general. Bryan, do you have that number yet?
Not.
No. He's working slow tonight. Okay. But
I've
Bryan,
got sausage fingers.
Dave, what do you think about this upcoming Super Bowl, and what's your gut telling you?
All right. Well, first of all, what Yahoo is telling me is the Patriots with -2.5. Now, that's Yahoo, and they don't always have the right spreads.
Bryan, what do you have?
I've got CBS going with New England 2.5 and a total of 56.5 for the over/under.
56.5 and 2.5. All right, Dave, go ahead.
Okay. Why would you once again pick against the Patriots? I don't understand. I don't want them to win. I'm going to be watching the game with my dad. I'm sure my dad's going to be rooting for the Patriots, even though he's a Steeler fan, because he grew up just outside of Boston. So he still kind of has a soft spot for them, unfortunately. But, man, it makes you almost not want to watch the game. I mean, I'm going to watch the game. It's your last chance to watch meaningful football until after Labor Day. So, but why did we have to watch them play in this game again? I mean, it was right there.
Yeah.
All I wanted was to not have to watch the Patriots play in this game again.
All right, Bryan, what do you think?
You know what? I really think the Rams have a shot to beat this team. I still don't think they're who we think they. I mean, I still don't think they're as good as everybody thinks they are. I like the fact that the Patriots are favored. That means that they're not going in as much of a underdog and as much of a us against the world mentality. However, I don't like the fact that they lost last year, and I just can't see them losing again. Here's the thing. We talk about, is this Tom Brady's last game? Hell no. The reason not is because if they lose, he's coming back for 6. If they win, he's coming back for 7. After 7, he's gone. But with that being said, I really think he's going to win. I really think the NFL wants him to win, just like the NFL wanted Peyton Manning to win 3 years ago. Let him ride off on his white Bronco. Oh, there's a good joke in there somewhere, but you know, but basically, I mean, I hate to be conspiracy guy. NFL wants Brady and Belichick to win, and basically, Goodell's tired of being hated by Robert Kraft and standing on that podium. He wants to get this over with. He wants to get them out of there as fast as possible, and that's, to me, that's by winning, letting them win. I know that's crazy, but I'm gonna get off my soapbox now and put down the tinfoil hat.
Well, let me say this: that you all bring up very, very valid points and on a multitude of topics regarding the Super Bowl. Look, to me, it comes down to one player. One player. If you think that the Rams have any shot at winning this game, it's going to come down to Aaron Donald.
I knew you were going to say Aaron Donald, and you are exactly right.
Aaron Donald.
I like that.
Aaron Donald is a human wrecking ball. And if you've watched him enough, and I wish I could have seen more of him because he's one of the few guys that just seems to do it right. J.J. Watt's another one, and they can take over a game. The thing about him, in J.J. Watt, he's so versatile, he moves all around. But if you want to beat Brady, you have to beat him by getting pressure up the middle. And so that's Aaron Donald's forte. That's his strength. That's where he thrives, is getting pressure up the middle. If he can have a big game, I can see them just he could be setting up a residency right next to Brady in the backfield. And that's the only way, in my opinion, they're going to win. The deck is stacked against them, but at the same time, it's not impossible. For that, we're going to get into our predictions. I'll go first. I'm going to take the Rams getting points, but I'm going to take the Patriots straight up. I think that the Patriots are a team they're so tough to beat, especially when they have an extra week to prepare. If this game were played last week, I would take LA hands down, but it's not. And Belichick has an extra week to prep. That normally means they're going to come out prepared they're going to come out more than prepared. They're going to come out basically showing something that they're not prepared for. So with that said, I will take the Rams getting points. I'll take the Patriots straight up, and I will take the 56.5, you said, Brian?
Yes.
Gosh, that's a tough one. I'll go with the under, believe it or not. So, Brian, what do you think?
I am also going with the under, but I'm going Patriots to win and Patriots to cover. It's a Gostkowski field goal. You get 3 for that, and if it's 2.5, that's what they're going to win by 3.
All right, Dave, what about yourself?
I am taking the Patriots to win. I'm taking the Patriots to cover, and I'm going to take the over just because just look at the AFC Championship game, how it was shaping up to be such the under, and then it just exploded at the end. I'm kind of a little bit concerned about the whole Aaron Donald thing because he is so obviously the best player on that defense. And what do the Patriots like to do? They like to focus on that one best player and do something about it. And I have a feeling that he's just going to draw so much of their attention. Hopefully some of the other guys can step up and do something on defense. But I'm just going to take the over because I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it be a nice, fun, entertaining, exciting game, much like last year. But we'll see. And I need to say something to Bryan. Listening to your podcast from Monday night, and you said that everyone is rooting for the Rams outside of New England and Louisiana. You forget the state of Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to pull for the Patriots because they are very, very, what's the right word? Well, that'd be like Cleveland having to pull for the Ravens.
Yeah, I get it, and you're the one. You're the one person listening to the podcast. Thank you, and I do appreciate that. Hey, look, can I add on to this whole deal, Jeff? Do you mind?
Sure, go for it.
MVP.
Oh,
and I know with the Patriots that's an easy one, but I want to think outside of the bun here. And I'm going to throw mine out to you just like that.
Okay.
Rob Gronkowski. Sombrero, Mathwiz, and all. Gronk is the MVP of this game.
Okay. Dave, what do you think?
I knew that was his pick because I listened to his podcast from Monday night. What to say? I guess it's funny because if you're talking fantasy, if you're talking FanDuel, because this is a single game that you know that you have your MVP player that you get your score and a half for. With that one, I would definitely go with someone off of the Rams. I would either go with a Goff or even a Cook, someone with the big passing game, because I think they're going to need to be putting the ball in the air a lot. Even a Todd Gurley, more with receptions than I think for rushing. But when you're talking about the actual MVP of the game, it's going to have to be Tom Brady probably, unless they give Sony Michel 5 touchdowns like have a tendency to want to do in the playoffs.
I'm going to think outside the box here and say that Aaron Donald gets it in a losing effort, which has happened before.
Oh, wow.
Which has happened before. That he's going to have such a dominant game. He's going to have multiple sacks. It's just not going to be enough. And I think that they're going to that'd be my gut.
Who was that?
I want to say he was a member of the Cowboys. I have to look it up. Yeah, it was back in the 70s. I remember my dad telling me about it.
How about I save you and I just tell you off the top of my head?
Sure.
Chuck Howley.
There you go.
You might want to check if it's right. I don't know because
I'm not going to.
It's a blank screen.
It.
There's nothing here, but go ahead and look it up.
Well, I'm not going to. The stat geek can, but I'm not going to look it up. I'll take word for it. It has happened before. It's rare, but again, I'll take that. That's my guess. So, I think at this point we get to our favorite part of the show, and it's the part of the show that we debuted last week, and that is either or. And we are going to talk about a multitude of things. I know I have 4 here. Dave sent me one prior to the show. So we have 5 technically. Bryan, do you have one that you want to offer up?
Either or.
You don't. So we're going to move
Yes,
on.
I do.
Right.
Yeah, I
okay.
do. I mean, this is going to kill you. The first thing that came into my head, it's actually going to kill you because you haven't been to one of these places probably since you were 6.
Okay.
But I am going to just go straight up and say Big Mac.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Big Mac or Whopper?
Dave, go ahead.
You have to pick one, Jefferson.
I know.
I'll say Whopper, but I eat all my burgers plain, so therefore
What?
it doesn't really matter.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. What?
Beef,
Completely
cheese,
plain.
That's it. Yeah.
And what about condiments? Anything like a ketchup or a ranch or a barbecue sauce?
Well, if I'm going somewhere fancy, you know what my favorite is?
Wait.
No, not fast food. No, but somewhere where you could get like buffalo and ranch on your burger. That's some good stuff.
That's
But,
fancy.
And a fried egg.
Yeah.
Jeff's dying 1,000 deaths right now.
Let me say, I can tell you the last time I had McDonald's food, and that was in the year 2001. When I was the last time I actually consumed it. It was a breakfast. I did not buy it. It was purchased for me. Haven't had it since. But I will say that growing up, we didn't have a Burger King near us. And so if we went anywhere, it was always McDonald's. So in this case, I'll have to go with McDonald's because I haven't had Burger King that much. So in this either or, I'll take the Big Mac over the Whopper. So there you go. Dave, go ahead with your either or.
Which one?
Wait, don't I get to go?
Yeah, you have to say, Bryan.
Yeah, well, you can't say both, Bryan.
Well, this is like picking which one of your kids is cooler. But by a sesame seed, I'm actually going to go with the Whopper.
Funny thing is, I didn't even know Whoppers had sesame seeds.
They don't.
Well, I didn't
But the
know
Big
that
Mac does. The Big Mac does.
Which is ironic because if you get a regular hamburger from McDonald's, it doesn't have sesame seeds, but it does at Burger King.
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Hold on. You got to back off. Jeff's the singer that you need to hear that from.
Yeah. No, I'm not thinking that. Anyway, Dave.
All right, here we go. All right. I'm going to be the first one I sent you, which is you can bring one of them back. Are you bringing back the original Steel Phantom, the Log Jammer, or the Laser Loop?
I'll go first and say the Steel Phantom because I remember going on a field trip there when I was in middle school, and that ride scared the bejesus out of me. And although I haven't been on like the sequels, that was like my first legitimate roller coaster. And so that kind of has a soft spot for me. What about you, Bryan?
Can you say the choices again? I haven't been to Kennywood since 1994.
Okay, it's the original Steel Phantom, the one that actually put you upside down and stuff, not like it is now. The Log Jammer, which just closed this past season.
Is that with water?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the Laser Loop, which Jeff could no way remember because he's too young.
I love water rides.
Well,
Yep.
that's why I said when he asked me this, like I said, I don't care. Sandcastle's better than all of them because Sandcastle is the water park near Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but
We
I gotta
used
be
to
in a
go there all
log.
the
I
time.
gotta be in a log, though. I
Yeah.
still want to be
Well, you can
fresh
still go
and get wet
to
and not vomit.
Williamsburg, Virginia, but in Busch Gardens, they still have their log ride.
You know, I'm probably right now, probably about a half an hour from there, so I
Yeah,
can
I
go.
know. So yeah, you can go over there. It's probably not open. It's probably frozen. But anyways, you could try to get on it.
You know what? Actually, that is a great Christmas location. We went about 5 years ago. Our friends went again this year. They have Christmas Wonderland at Busch
Yeah.
Gardens.
Is it good?
It's cold, but they keep it running.
Nice. What's your other one, Dave?
Oh, what the other? The other one you basically brought up. I said, well, you wanted to say Sandcastle. Said, so is it Sandcastle, Kennywood, or Idlewild?
Sandcastle was the best, man. I mean, I remember growing up going there and the tube rides. I mean, I would always go with my aunt and uncle, and they would just get on the lazy river, and me and my cousins, we just ran crazy around that park. I mean, I'd never let my kids do what we did there, and it was just so much fun. I've heard now that it's kind of a dump. And you know what? Maybe that was a situation where it was a dump as a kid, but you just don't realize it because you're a kid. You know what I mean? But Bryan, go ahead and answer that question for yourself.
I'm from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Idlewild was 30 minutes away. That's where a lot of my friends went to work. I mean, it was that's just home to me. So I have to go with that. I thought they're owned by Kennywood. They've done a pretty nice job with that water park. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, I don't know if it's still there, still freaks me the hell out when Madam Friday or whatever pops up. I forget her name, but she really freaks me out. But I love Mr. Rogers too. He's my fourth birthday cake. So with that being said, we got to go out.
Okay, well, I'm going to actually answer. I didn't answer the last one, so I'll say both of them. Mine would be Logjammer and Kennywood.
Okay. All right. Very good. I've got some legit ones here, guys. I got to be honest with you.
Legit about us.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, there's not. Okay. Anyways, we're going to. Legitimacy started dropping at a rapid rate when Dave was wrong 4 times in the first 5 minutes. So asking trivia questions are wrong. Anyway,
I was off by 1 digit one time, and I made a correction to make sure I was being honest.
Okay, we're gonna stay with. Let's think Super Bowl festivities, Super Bowl parties. Okay, either or. What is your favorite Super Bowl entree, wings or pizza? Go with Dave first.
I'm going to say wings. I'm not even going to have either of them at my Super Bowl party just because I got lots of good stuff.
No, but I don't care what you're having at your party. I'm saying which would you prefer? And do you like real spicy wings or?
I like medium.
Okay.
Medium buffalo wings. And I didn't even eat wings until, oh my goodness, maybe 10 years ago. Like even through college, they had this super great deal with pizza and wings. I never got it because I'm like, oh, I don't like wings. I don't like wings. So, but now I love wings. I could crush some wings.
Okay, Bryan, what about you?
You know what? I love pizza, but at a Super Bowl, I want wings. Not too hot. I'm a mild guy. Gotta have lots of ranch. That's my what do the kids say? That's my jam. So wings are my jam. Back in 1991, I wasn't quite 21 years old, but Daiquiris of Johnstown didn't care, and they would go ahead and serve $2 pitchers and 5-cent wings. So you had some fraternity guys going up there. We would just go up. We would get 20 wings, 25 wings for nothing, for what, 5 cents a piece. So that's what's that, $1 at that point? And so for about $1, then we get a couple of pitchers, and we've got some great stories after that.
I bet. I'm going to go with pizza because, as my wife will attest, I can't stand getting my hands dirty.
You know what? Yeah,
this is the honest truth. I don't like it.
Oh my God! Your wife is a saint. The more and more I get to know you, I think your wife is a saint.
I'm
It's
sorry.
dirty.
Yeah, it's not my thing. That's not my jam. It's with food. Yeah, I mean, yeah, with food.
I
I mean,
would,
it's just not.
I
I
would
like
go with shrimp over both of them for Super Bowl. That's just me. I do
okay.
shrimp for Super Bowl.
Okay, let's stick with the party theme. This is just a straight up yes or no. When you go to a Super Bowl party, do you expect dessert to be served? Brian, I'll start with you.
Look, Dave Schofield can attest. You can't. Every week at my house, for an afternoon game is a Super Bowl party. There is usually some form of dessert, because my wife takes that part over. Yeah, you know what? I mean, you're talking snacks, then somebody will consider cupcakes a snack. Someone always seems to bring a cake or something to a Super Bowl party. So, yeah, I mean, I consider it pretty much the norm these days.
Okay, what about you, Dave?
I usually don't do dessert because I fill up on so much fried, nasty junk that I can't even think about it. Although this year I do know I am doing a dessert, doing my wonderful cookie dough dip, which is just
Ooh.
excellent stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Hey,
So,
Jeff, did your invitation get lost in spam? Because mine did.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think he might have forgotten the 21 or something at the end of my email address. That's probably what happened.
Hey, everybody, we're having a cookie dough dip.
you
Brian.
are welcome to come over to my house.
Oh, no, not now.
No, we're afterthoughts at this
with
point.
with my father rooting for the Patriots, who won't be able to hear what's on the TV anyway, but we'll have a good time.
Well, if I come over, I have to bring my 5 kids, and no one wants that. So,
Hey, the Heart Maniacs are welcome anytime at my house because, I mean, we only have 2, and they outdo them every single time as far as being obnoxious. So, and you're not going to argue with that, Jeff.
No, I can't argue that.
I always ignore the halftime show and use that to try to get the kids to bed and then get to enjoy the second half.
Hey, WWE's doing a halftime show. The last time they did it was Rock and Mick Foley back in 2001.
Well, speaking of WWE, that just happens to be the theme of my next either or that I have for you guys. Last week, we stayed on the air after we got off the air and talked about wrestling and how we both loved wrestling. And this is going to be a tough one for you. I know Brian for sure. Who was better on the mic? Because when you have certain wrestlers that were just phenomenal on the mic, they just owned the microphone. They made everyone just buy in. In my opinion, these are probably 2 of the best. Who was better on the mic? Was it Ric Flair or The Rock? We're going 2 different generations here. You have to choose one. All right.
Oh, wow.
Brian, go first, because I know you're a Flair guy, but you have to understand how good The Rock was at the same time.
You know what? I just watched by accident the other day The Rock and Hulk Hogan confronting the NWO. And I just watched it and I thought, this is a thing of genius. As much as I love Ric Flair and I love listening to him rant, no one is quicker on his feet than The Rock, and no one is more clever. And I thought he is probably, I would say he's probably one of the best on the mic of all time.
I'll agree with that. Go ahead, Dave. What do you think?
I will also go with The Rock. That was, I mean, Ric Flair is iconic. I mean, you can quote Ric Flair like crazy, but you can still quote The Rock like crazy. I had a yo-yo that, seriously, I had a yo-yo that someone gave me that every time you did it, it said, "Shut your mouth, jabroni," twice. And I still will say that back to back. Is it wrong that I say that to my kids?
No, that's not wrong at all. I say much worse. So, okay, I'm gonna save my 4th one for next week. I think that's a good way to end the show.
Hey, Jeff,
what's up?
Shut your mouth, jabroni.
Very good. Hey, if you're listening to the show, make sure you understand that you can follow us on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search BTSC Steelers Radio. If you go to any audio podcast platform, search Steelers. We'll be one of your first up there. So SB Nation, Steelers, BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. That's where you need to be. Thanks, gentlemen, for your time. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Steelers Preview.